Welcome, everybody. We have a fabulous show for you today. We are going to meet two of our exceptional women awardees. They are both engineers, and their careers have taken them in very different directions. We have Diana Hoff, who is a petroleum engineer. She's involved in the energy services industry and is a senior vice president at Terra Resources. There is so many stories from Diana. I'm looking forward to asking her about some of them. And with her, we have Rachel Barger. Rachel is also an engineer, and she took a different route. She is the senior vice president for global enterprise sales at Cisco and has also a very unusual background. I'm looking forward to getting these two ladies up for you in just a moment. I am Lorraine Siegel. I'm the chair, founder, and CEO of the Exceptional Women Awardees Foundation. We enable incredible women like Rachel and Diana to rise to meet their dreams. Why did I start this foundation? Well, I never had a mentor. Early in my career as a lawyer and then as a CEO of a number of companies, even as a board director, I never had a coach to guide me. And I wanted to be sure that women who walk the road less traveled, as I have, would always have a network, a sisterhood of supportive women leaders who would enable them to reach their dreams. And that is exactly what the Exceptional Women Awardees Foundation does. And so without further ado, let me bring in my incredible guests today. Rachel, Diana, welcome to both of you. So Diana, I want to hear about why you decided to become a petroleum engineer 30 plus years ago.
It was probably the combination of a father who's a chemical engineer and my grandpa who was a pumper, which is the guy that went out and made sure the wells were producing in the middle of the night and things like that. So I was kind of pushed in the engineering direction, and I wanted something that was outdoors. And petroleum engineering has certainly been that. And, I got in it. I thought I'll stay for a year if it's fun. And it's been great for 35 years. I've seen a lot of the world, most of the Western U.S. and into Australia, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam. So it was something that is just, great people in it and something new every day, always a challenge. And that's what I've really enjoyed about it since I got into it.
Amazing. Well, there are a lot more stories where that comes from. So I'm going to come back to you because I want to hear about your time on an oil rig. But first, let's go to Rachel. Rachel, you started off as an engineer and then you went in a completely different direction into sales. What happened?
Very good question. So, growing up, I was always strong in math and in science. And so I thought, well, that engineering was the thing that I was supposed to do. And I was very lucky to go to the University of Delaware and complete my degree in chemical engineering. But as I was getting to the end of my time at Delaware, getting close to completion, I started talking with different companies and started walking around plants and, just being honest, the smell, the steel-toed boots, the flannel shirts, it just wasn't for me, right then and there. And I sort of had a moment where I thought, okay, well, now what do I do? And it just so happened that a lot of at the time, Big Four consulting groups were looking for engineers to bring in to become technical developers. And so I actually joined Arthur Andersen right out of school. I never have practiced a day of chemical engineering, technically, but I really do feel like the engineering background and the problem solving skills that I was provided through the course of my education have been just critical to my success within sales and within technology.
Rachel, the thing that I love about your background is you zigged and zagged in many different areas. You also left your job and went to play hockey. Tell us about that.
That's right. It's this time of year during the Olympic season that, I always look back with fondness. Now, I never made it to an Olympics. I was on the U.S. national women's field hockey team, something I'm incredibly proud of. And I sort of think it's a great story about following your dreams. I actually worked incredibly hard through college and was invited to camp to join, as an alternate for the team and start practicing with the team. But, at that time I decided, well, I need to go to work and I need to start my career and sort of move forward with my life. And then I was so lucky. Several years later, while we were trying to prepare to go to the Olympics, I was playing semi-professional and I got the opportunity to try again. And that time, I told myself, no, you have to try it. What's the worst thing that can happen? And then balancing it off with what's the best thing that can happen. And it was incredibly difficult. Unfortunately, we didn't qualify. And, I worked really hard. I definitely wasn't one of the best members of the team, but I worked really hard and it was an experience I'll never forget.
Oh, it's amazing, amazing. And I've been watching the abuse that those women take on their bodies when they're getting smashed across the ice rink. So I can't even imagine field hockey, ice hockey, any of those contact sports really leaves your body with a couple of aches and pains, I would imagine, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, Diana, here we go to you. Now, you were for 4 years the company man, I think it's called a drilling foreman on an oil rig. Okay, you have to tell us about that story. How did that happen?
Well, it was actually something I volunteered to do. And, when I think back about those days, the two things that come to mind to me are a general lack of sleep and buns of steel at that point because of all the stairs I was going up and down every day. I think it's, probably interesting for people to understand that just getting to the rig for your 7 days or your 14 days on hitch was half the adventure. I've been in seaplanes that landed in the middle of the, mouth of the Mississippi where the belly of the plane's in the water and you look out the window and there's water. I've been all kinds of helicopters, boat rides in pretty rough conditions generally if they're putting you on a boat because you can't be on a helicopter. And, I've done what they used to call the rope swing, where you would be on the bottom deck of a platform and you'd swing via this braided rope across, not a huge open expanse of water, but it seems huge when you're the one on the end of the rope, and you'd swing from that onto the boat that's generally pitching up and down on the other end. So a lot of interesting things of trying to get there. On the sleep end, you were lucky, or at least for me, I was lucky to get 5 or 6 hours of sleep in a day. And generally that came in probably a couple different naps. We'd never call it sleeping. We'd say, I'm going to go lay down. But, at that time, there was only one foreman or company man on the rigs. And so everything that happened was your responsibility 24/7. Now they have people, 2 shifts. So there's 12-hour towers, we call them, that people do. But, there are times when you have an operation that'll last 36 hours that you need to be up there witnessing things or giving direction. And so I learned how to pre-sleep and take naps, which I was never very good at before that. But, you learn to sleep when you have to. I guess the part about, being a woman out there, it was really, really rare to see another woman on the rig. Cleaning crews, cooking crews, offshore and onshore, you were the cooking and cleaning crew, which is why I ate a lot of SpaghettiOs in those days. But, great experience that I feel like it really helped in my career because it gave me street credibility to be out there and do that for so long.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. And you know what, Diana, I have to believe that the crew on that rig had tremendous respect for you, which has permeated your whole career, in fact, because you were probably one of the only women anywhere in sight. And you were one of the guys. You made the same decisions, you did the same work, and really, really impressive. To our audience, this is a unique opportunity for you to ask questions of 2 incredible leaders, one in the services petroleum industry and also in the technology industry. So please join us. Make sure to put up some questions and we'd be happy to answer them on the air and in person. You'll get a specific answer to your specific question. In the meantime, let's go back to Rachel, because Rachel, one of the things that I know Cisco is moving into now is software. And you seem to have had a myriad of experiences in that area. Tell us a little bit about your time with SAP. How long were you there? Why did you move over to Cisco? And what is your software background as well?
Absolutely. So, very early on when I joined Arthur Andersen, I actually started working on the very, very early business-to-business e-commerce platforms. It's a platform that no longer exists anymore, but it was called Interworld at the time, which really gave me some, unique insights on, what the future of software was going to hold. And, after the Enron crisis, again, there's always a silver lining for everything. I moved on to a project in a boutique firm working on something called Ariba. And I had never worked on it before, but that was actually my pathway, very unexpected, but my pathway to really falling in love with software as a service and technology in general. And Ariba was an organization, or still is an organization, but we started out as a on-premise software technology, like most software that was out there at that period of time. But I was incredibly lucky to be able to see for many years our transition from an on-premise to one of the very first software as a service organizations, as well as a company that really valued the power of a network and the network effect in bringing revenues through, and also bringing customers, suppliers together, and really delivering great value. Through that evolution, I really got to learn software as a service front and center, and then was lucky enough to be acquired by SAP, one of the premier software companies in the world. And again, through that experience, I not only learned, through Ariba, but had the opportunity to see many other acquisitions of software as a service come in through SAP, and also balance that out with, existing on-premise and moving on-premise technology to a private cloud or a public cloud. All of those aspects, along with the learnings around customer success, adoption, and renewals, really gave me an incredible foundation to now join Cisco and be a part of the transformation that we're doing at Cisco to really deliver customer outcomes through technology, and also using the power of software and SaaS in order to do that.
Amazing. When I listen to you, Rachel and Diana, it just amazes me why more women don't go into engineering and STEM. So, Diana, give us some of your thoughts on why girls in high school don't think about becoming engineers.
Well, I think the movies make us all look like nerds, first of all. And maybe only petroleum engineers are cool. But, there was a study by Microsoft, I think it was done in Europe in 2017, and it showed that girls actually get really interested in STEM about age 11. And by age 15, then they lose interest. So, I think we need to have, more role models, more people like, myself and Rachel. And, I have an older sister who's an engineer. She's retired now. She's always, gone out in the schools and really tried to be that active role model for young girls, so that they, can see that, hey, women do this stuff too. And I think we need to make it fun overall. I mean, I think America really needs a lot more of our young people to go into engineering, whether male or female.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you guys are both such incredible role models. The producer's telling me we have lots of questions out there. So let's bring up whichever one's first. Oh, from Danette. Hi there, Danette. Thank you. You automatically stand out for being female in a male-dominated industries. How do you find the right balance of standing out and fitting in so you're the most efficient, so most effective? Why don't you go, Rachel, and then I know Diana should answer that as well.
Absolutely. Awesome question. And, to be brutally honest, for probably the first quarter of my career, I didn't really feel comfortable. I was, maybe trying to act like the guys, or, being unsure of, how I should actually act in various situations, business dinners, in the office, all across the board. And actually, when I started to be more my authentic self and really channel and show who I naturally am, instead of trying to be somebody else and trying to fit in, is actually when I fit in the greatest. And it's actually where I became a better leader. And that's actually where my career really started to take off, because I was channeling what was unique about me. And I think that's the really important thing. We all, we talk about diversity, and diversity has so many different angles and aspects to it. One of the most important aspects of diversity is just difference. And when we have more people that are authentically acting like themselves in any environment, that's when we have really amazing ideas and the best outcomes overall.
Yeah, Rachel, that was just absolutely brilliant. All right, Diana, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with her that being authentic is really the key. For me, I mean, there's just never another woman around. There's so few petroleum engineers who are women to start with, and then to be in the drilling and completions end that I am, there's almost none. So, I think humor for me has been a tool I've often used, whether on the rig or, in the office, just to make people feel more relaxed. I guess I learned along the way that as the person who's different, that I felt like that burden was on me to actually reach out to other people more and to make them feel comfortable. And I actually learned that on the rig. I went to a different rig, almost every hitch. One hitch you're in North Dakota, and maybe the next one you're in South Texas. So, I learned if I stayed off to myself, that, people would make up these stories in their head about what you were. And so, I tended to, kind of approach them more. And, and I definitely use humor. I had a few jokes that would turn the guys on the rigs, their faces red. So you got to use humor as a tool.
Well, I love having your humor, Diana. Everybody knows in your cohort and in our sisterhood that if Diana's around, it's going to be some really good fun. So we appreciate having that. So, Diana, you just moved back to Virginia, right? So what's that all about? Is that your home? Is that where you're moving to? Tell us about Virginia, West Virginia.
West Virginia, yeah. So, work-wise, that's where I work for a company called Antero, and we're the largest natural gas producer in the state of West Virginia, and that's where I grew up. And it's really been cool to come full circle. I've been into Asia and all over the Western U.S. and a little bit in the U.K. work-wise, and to come back to my home state and to really have, so much impact in how our operations are conducted, environmentally impacts, to the community, any of that kind of stuff. It's been great. And, it's a double-edged sword. And I knew that when I went back there, because, people they have my cell phone number. They will text me if they see something they don't like. I get tagged on Facebook, things like that. But I appreciate it. And, I treat most places, like home, because I know there's somebody's home. But, West Virginia is definitely my home. And I feel very, very obligated to make sure, we do things in the most beneficial ways possible for the people who live there. And I think early in my career, people used to say, thank you for working in oil and gas and being out there, no matter what the weather conditions, to provide people with energy. And, now there's a lot more questions about the use of the fuel itself. And, I think we need both clean environment and, responsibly sourced and, plentiful, secure energy sources. I don't know if people realize, if we all do as a country, that 80% of the energy used in the U.S. right now is fossil fuels. And even in 2050, almost 30 years from now, the Energy Information Administration, they are forecasting that it'll still be something like 75% of our electric power generation is going to come from fossil fuels and nuclear. So, in my view, it's something that we all need, whether you realize you're using it or not. And so, like a barrel of oil, people can think about that and they think, oh, well, that's gasoline or jet fuel or diesel. Well, maybe half of it is. And the other half of that barrel goes into all kinds of things that people don't think about. It goes into protective gloves for medical workers. Things go into pharmaceuticals, makeup, perfume, bicycle tires, almost any kind of sporting activity you do. If you're using a tent, if you're using ski boots, if you're wearing any kind of clothes that aren't made from silk or wool, those have hydrocarbon parts in them. So I think it's important for everybody to realize that as a society, for this modern life, if we want to continue that, we have to figure out how to do that as responsibly as we can. My company is working to get a portion of our gas certified as responsibly sourced. We're in that process right now, and I think that's important. I think end users want to know where their energy came from. So we all know we use it for heating our houses and cooking on our stoves, but you need to also know it's in most other parts of your life as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, look, I just can't even visualize being on an oil rig. So, Diana, I think you need to bring some pictures for us, and maybe we'll try and pop them into the B-roll for the next time we have you on. Okay, Rachel, I'm just completely fascinated by what you do at Cisco, and I know that what you've done is develop a number of strategic partnerships, which I wrote 5 books on, so it's sort of my area. Give us a little bit of insight on that, and then I know there are a lot more questions we'll bring in. Go ahead.
You bet. So, a lot of people talk about having strategic partnerships. And I think, one of the things that I've really focused on through my career, especially in my role right now at Cisco, which is overseeing our global enterprise segment, which are our most complex, most highly engaged, very many of our most strategic customers across the globe that are headquartered in the U.S. what does it really mean to be a partner? And I think after working with customers, working with ecosystem partners, it's about understanding the other person. And, Lorraine, I think you'd probably definitely agree with me through the books that you've written, is how do you really do develop a win-win situation? How do you really identify, a give-get? How do you really understand what the other person is looking for, be empathetic to them, stand in their shoes, and then try to find outcomes that can help you to come together so that everyone wins? And I think that's the real, crux of really being a strategic partner. And then secondarily, you have to have something of value. So how do you really understand your own differentiation? What's unique that you provide that can really augment that other organization, that other person, to really build that strategic partnership? I think it's those two things together: empathy and understanding, and really understanding what they want and need, and then understanding what you provide, how it's unique and differentiated, and how those two things can come together.
Yeah, you are the poster child for partnering, Rachel, and we could do a whole program just on that. I think there's some other questions, so let's see if our producer can bring them up. There's, Marcus from Cleveland, from Diana. Oh, we saw some of the answers to this in your last answer. Just give us a clean energy answer to Marcus's question.
Sure. Well, natural gas, which is what my company primarily makes, it's the cleanest of the fossil fuels. It's been a big part of, our reduction in greenhouse gases in the United States, is switching from coal to natural gas. And so, there is a transition that's underway. It's just going to take some time. There's a lot of mechanical things that have to happen along the way. And I see natural gas as a key component of that.
Yeah. Rachel, you lived in Australia and in Asia, and I can't even imagine some of the challenges you must have faced, just because of the fact that those cultures in some parts of Asia certainly are not even supportive of women. But what's your experience with different cultures?
I've been super lucky that I've, like you said, been across the Middle East, Africa, Asia, Australia. It's one of the things that I really enjoyed the most throughout my career, is the opportunity to meet different people, understand different cultures. And I think there's a real amazing opportunity that you have in working with different cultures, in sort of going back to what we were talking about before with strategic partnerships. How do you understand your message and get your message across, whatever it might be, to that other person that has a different background or cultural experience or different language? How can you put it on yourself to get that message over to them in a way that they understand? And one of those, you brought it up very rightfully, in some of those locales, women are traditionally different roles, or seen very differently in business. And so that has always been something that I have been extraordinarily passionate about. It's something that I've had the opportunity to do at Cisco by being the executive sponsor for the Americas for women of Cisco, is to say, how can I be a role model? How can I stand out and support other women through? How can I create a pathway for women to see what is possible, and put myself out there, whether it's in a business context, a social context, whatever it might be, to provide, that pathway. And I think it's really important to do that. And I think that each and every one of us, thankfully, so many people are joining the call today in order to understand how can we help other women that want to be engineers, or who are engineers, up through the ranks. And I think it's an amazing thing, and we all need to lean in on that, no matter what geography we're in.
In the old days, you used to go to one company and stay there for your whole career. I don't know, Diana, have you changed companies a lot? I mean, have you been with many different companies? And then we'll go to Rachel, because I know you've done a number of changes. I'd like to know why you would change companies, and what does it do that's positive for your career, Diana?
Now, that's a really good question. I think that has changed a lot. I started with Chevron, and I was there about 7 years. And, I was, just at a point in my career where, I was wanting to continue on the rigs for a while, which I did. And then I could see the computers coming in, and I knew that I need to get off the rigs and become housebroken again. So, there was kind of I was living out of Denver. We didn't have an office here. So that's why, I left Chevron at that point. But, for me, it's always been, finding another challenge is really why I've left companies. I don't leave just for money. I leave for experience if I go elsewhere. And, I try to always look at what my situation is and say, am I learning something? Am I valued where I'm at? Like, do they consider my opinion when they make decisions? And, is it fun? That's the other part for me is, I really enjoy what I do every day. And if I get somewhere where it's not fun, I will, if I can't change it, leave for that.
Yeah, and you're fun to be around. So you need to be in a place that appreciates you as well. Rachel, culture is a big thing. So when you move from company to company, there's sort of a period of adjustment. What has been your experience on the positives that have come out of moving companies for you?
No, absolutely. And even I would say, moving geography or moving, within a very large company, when you move from an acquired entity to sort of the, as we might call it, the portfolio side of the company that you've been acquired on, there are all these opportunities to embrace new culture, but also bring the best of the culture that you previously had into that situation. And I think for me, the things that I always try to think about is I love, it's a bit of a proverb that was told to me by a mentor many years ago. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Really open your ears, really listen, really experience, and really be open because, change is hard, but there's so many positives to change if you're just open to them and you're trying to understand them, seek to understand. And, that really goes to being curious, which is, I think, something that the more all of us are curious about others and trying to understand others, the better it is. But I'd also say it's really important, take the best of what you had previously and find ways to weave that in and try to, within the tapestry of the culture, create a little bit of a variation and some newness in that culture to continue to keep it moving and keep it fresh. Those would be my suggestions.
Yeah. Alma put up a question, and I'll just read it to you quickly because we won't have time to put it up. But she asks about attracting women or girls to STEM, whether it is your opinion that boys actually create something just for the sake of it, whereas girls like to create things to solve a problem. Do any of those ideas ring true for you? What do you think, Diana?
Well, it's a great question. I think there's an innate difference in how we problem solve. You hear people say about engineering that there's 2 types. There's a hardcore, I just want to do the calculations and solve the actual technical issue. And then there's engineers who solve more by management style. And, I'm definitely in the second category. I think the great success I've had is because of project teams I've led and the great things we've done and the ability to bring teams together. And I don't think, when you're somebody thinking about a career, you don't think team building is part of engineering, right? I mean, I didn't even think about engineering seriously until about the time I graduated high school. My dad was an engineer. So I think Alma's got a great point there, which is really understanding, how men and women and girls and boys might function differently and how that says how we need to attract them into the field.
Yeah. Rachel, we're running towards the end of the program, so a 30-second answer on that. What's your thought?
Yeah, engineering is the ultimate problem-solving profession. I would say that all of the problem-solving skills that I use today in my current career have a basis in my engineering background, and also, just having comfort with numbers is so important in a business environment, and that's something else that engineering can really stretch you on. So, hopefully, Diana and I are both really amazing examples of you can go a lot of different ways with an engineering career. You just shouldn't allow your brain to trap you into a particular mold. It's really, it's the ultimate problem-solving career.
Renee just put in a question. Again, we don't have time to type it up, but she has 2 girls who are freshmen in college. They're studying to be engineers. And if you had to choose an engineering position to start, which one would you choose? Diana, quick answer.
Well, I have to know who this is. I actually can tell who that is. If you're saying what kind of discipline would you pick? I would still say petroleum engineering myself. And it's because if you actually want to be the one that comes in and says, how can we do this in the most clean way, the most responsible way? I think that's really exciting to come into an industry that's needed and necessary every day and say, hey, we've got to continue every day to step it up. So I would go there. That's my bias.
All right. Rachel, what's yours?
My answer is the one that you're most passionate about. When I was a little girl, I always watched the BASF commercials. You know, we don't make the plane, we make it fly faster. That's what I wanted to do. And so that's why I went into chemical engineering. Find your superpower, find your passion, and go towards it. And that's the right engineering discipline for you.
I love it. I love it. I wish we had more time. And to our audience, I apologize that we couldn't get all your comments and questions in, but please post them on LinkedIn and other social media. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Rachel. And we are not done, because we have another fabulous show coming up. We have 2 exceptional women awardees. We have Charlotte Farmer, who is the Chief Operating Officer at UL. And with her, we have Ingrid Jacobs, who is the Global Chief Diversity Officer at JLL. These are incredible women. They are going to talk to us about diversity in large corporations. And these are certainly challenges that they are facing and resolving today. So don't forget to come for those shows. And in addition to that, I have a question to ask you today. If you are a woman and you happen to be an engineer, would you please write to us and tell us what your experience has been? We want to help you in your career. Well, it has been a true joy to have you with us today. And of course, don't forget to go to Amazon Music, Spotify, our YouTube channel, share, comment, do all the good things and make sure other people see our show. I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye now.